You also briefed on that there was apparently 2 or 3 incidents in the previous administration as well.
Well, that's what they're saying now. But I think that the administration needs to come forward, because this is not an ability to say that this is a crisis that was handed to them. This is a crisis that has developed as a result of this president during his administration, allowing China to do a similar act before, not responding, and then clearly in this one, not seeing the urgency of what was unfolding. I mean, the president allowed this to go across our most sensitive sites and wasn't even going to tell the American public. If you hadn't broken this story, the American public would not have even known. There was no attempt to notify Congress, no attempt to put together the Gang of Eight. I think this administration lacks urgency.
All right, guys, so once again, we got to talk about the Chinese spy balloon that the Biden administration allowed to freely fly over the continental United States and spy on our military assets, some of our nuclear facilities, some of our nuclear capabilities, like, for example, our intercontinental ballistic missiles, right? Some of our most advanced weaponry. Yeah, it seems as if the Biden administration allowed the Chinese to spy on us for days on end without doing anything about it, okay? Which, I mean, hey, it's kind of par for the course because, I mean, we still allow TikTok, right? We haven't banned TikTok, okay? Which is an app that the Chinese are using to spy on American citizens, allegedly. So again, the Biden administration doesn't care about spying, right? Maybe this is his kickback to China for all those business deals that, you know, they helped him out with him and his son. So who knows what's going on here, right? This could be just, you know, the Biden crime family selling out the American people. But Biden himself claimed that he ordered the air balloon to be shot down a few days ago, okay, before it reached the Atlantic Ocean and crossed the whole country. He ordered it to be shot down. However, he was overruled by woke generals Lloyd Austin and Mark Miley, right, who apparently are running the country now.
As you alluded to in the previous question, China is not an enemy, and I think that's important for people to clearly understand. China is a rising power. China has been a rising power since Deng Xiaoping in '79. And they've been clicking off at 10% growth for almost 30 years, and they dropped down to about 7% the last year or two. And they'll probably drop again, you know, and come into the range of normalcy and 3 to 5% growth. But that's still significant economic growth. And there's been a really large historic change from a North Atlantic-based global economy to now it's proceeding to be a North Pacific-based global economy. So with respect to China, what normally happens historically, it's not in all cases, but in most cases, where you have economic growth of that magnitude typically follows military power. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing a significant increase in Chinese military capabilities over the last 10 to 20 years. And they are going to develop themselves and are developing themselves into a great power.
Okay, apparently they're his handlers. Okay, they have more say and authority than the president of the United States. Biden thought he was being tough by saying that, well, I ordered for it to be shot down, right? Well, no, he actually looked weak. Okay, he looked like he was not running the country. That Mark Miley and Lloyd Austin are actually really, you know, the commanders and chiefs of the military, which, I mean, I believe, because clearly Biden does not have the mental capabilities to even lead itself, right? Much less lead a country or military. So with that being said, of course, the mainstream liberal media has to run defense for the Biden administration. And you know how the mainstream liberal media runs defense for the Biden administration? Well, they start talking about Trump. They say, well, Biden looks weak here, but what about Trump? And they got a layup from the Biden Department of Defense as they reveal that this is not the first time that a Chinese air balloon, spy balloon, has flown over the United States. They're claiming that allegedly this happened at least 3 times under Trump, okay? Which, again, is fascinating because we never heard about that, right? Never heard about it. Also, there doesn't seem to be much video or photo evidence of this happening under the Trump administration, but this is what they're claiming, okay, as a way to try to save face for their Lord and Savior, Biden. And of course, the mainstream liberal media, instead of questioning this, right, and using some common sense, no, they just run with it and pretend like it's, you know, true, right? And I want you guys to watch this exchange between Jake Tapper and Mark Rubio, where Jake Tapper asked Mark Rubio about this happening under Trump. Take a look.
The Pentagon says that they know of the Chinese doing this at least 4 other times previously, once at the beginning of the Biden administration, 3 times during the Trump administration. It seems to be you're saying no, that's not true. But in any case, is the
no, I
what's
know
the
what
difference?
I'm saying. Okay, well, the difference is this. Are we aware? Have we seen the Chinese fly these balloons in the past? Yes. I think there's even Twitter pictures of it flying at one point off the coast of the U.S. Down south somewhere. The existence of the balloons is not a mystery to people in that field. What we've never seen, what is unprecedented, and whoever the source was at the Department of Defense would have to acknowledge this, what is unprecedented is a balloon flight that entered over Idaho and flew over Montana, over all of these sensitive military installations, Air Force bases, ICBM fields, right across the middle of the country. That has never happened before. That is unprecedented. That it flew briefly over some part of the U.S. or continental U.S., that's one thing. But what we saw this week, it's unprecedented. And that's why everyone's reacting the way they're reacting. We've never seen this. So this is no comparison to anything that may have happened up to this point.
Your colleague and friend, Republican Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, accused President Biden of, quote, dereliction of duty by allowing the Chinese spy balloon to fly across the U.S. That's a pretty strong accusation. Do you agree with that?
Well, I think the dereliction of duty begins with this. Why not on Tuesday or Wednesday? You know people are going to see this. At some point, you're going to have to disclose it, and they probably didn't want to because they didn't want to have their hand forced on canceling this Blinken visit. And so they didn't want to have to talk about it. But why didn't the president go on television? He has the ability to convene the country in cameras and basically explain what we're dealing with here and why he's made the decisions he's making and what they intend to do. I don't understand. Once they went public with it, knowing the amount of interest this was going to generate, presidents have the ability to go before camera, go before the nation, and basically explain these things early on. And his failure to do so is, I don't understand that. I don't understand why he wouldn't do that. And that is the beginning of dereliction of duty. And the second is, we have to act swiftly on these things. I think that's part of one of the things the Chinese are trying to message, and that is the U.S. had to see this coming and decided they couldn't or wouldn't do anything about it early on, and now had to wait until this thing went across the middle of the country. And what are we going to do the next time this happens? Are we going to allow it to fly through here again and shoot it down once again to the East Coast? I mean, these are questions the White House needs to answer. And I don't think these are partisan claims I'm making. I think there would be a broad agreement that we need to know moving forward what our policy is going to be with regards to this.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that, okay? As a deflection away from the fact that Joe Biden made us look very weak on the world stage, they want to talk about Trump. Well, Trump allowed this to happen 3 times, right? This is what they're claiming. Again, a ridiculous claim on his face, knowing Trump, okay? Understanding how Trump operates, that is a ridiculous claim. And the former director of national intelligence, John Ratcliffe, came out and confirmed how ridiculous the claim was by saying that, no, this did not happen under Trump. Take a look.
John, the Biden administration is trying to minimize this explosive situation in this past week, and the Department of Defense is claiming that there were 3 balloons, Chinese spy balloons, that entered the United States airspace during the Trump administration, and that they were not shot down and they were not disclosed. Can you please tell us the truth and if that's true?
Well, it's not true. I can refute it. Former Secretary of Defense Mark Esper refuted it yesterday. Former Secretary of State and CIA Director Mike Pompeo has refuted it. But Maria, the American people can refute it for themselves. Do you remember during the Trump administration when photographers on the ground and commercial airline pilots were talking about a spy balloon over the United States that people could look up and see even with the naked eye, and that a media that hated Donald Trump wasn't reporting? I don't remember that either because it didn't happen. As I said to you earlier, this was unprecedented. We have never had a circumstance where an adversary has had spy craft over our country, our continental United States, posing a threat for the better part of a week straight. And that's why I said to you before, not only is it unprecedented, but the damage from this is incalculable, both from an intelligence standpoint and the possible payloads. You talked a little bit earlier about the different types of payloads that a stratospheric balloon could carry. Those possibilities are limited only by your imagination. But what we do know is none of those are possible to be deployed against the United States if a stratospheric balloon isn't allowed to traipse across our countryside for 4 straight days, something that has never happened before.
But just to be clear, you're saying there were not 3 spy balloons from China that entered the United States airspace and traveled and was able to do what we've seen this week?
Yeah, I'm telling you that very clearly. Listen, Maria, it's every time something goes wrong in the Biden administration, there's one of two responses. They either find a way to blame the Trump administration, or they try and find a way to say the Trump administration did it too. And that's what they're trying to say here. This happened during the Trump administration. It didn't.
Okay.
And you would have heard about it before.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. John Ratcliffe is 100% right. And it's not just him saying this. Trump denied it. Robert O'Brien, who was a national security advisor under the Trump administration from 2019 to 21, is saying that it didn't happen. John Bolton, who's also a national security advisor under Trump, he's not necessarily a Trump guy, right? In fact, he's anti-Trump. He's saying it didn't happen. John Ratcliffe is saying it didn't happen. Yeah, I don't think it happened, okay? And I like John Ratcliffe a lot. I'm going to tell you guys. He was the guy that was sounding the alarms on how Hillary Clinton basically was the mastermind behind the whole Russia collusion thing, okay? He's the guy that spilled the beans on how Hillary allegedly, wanted to get the go-ahead from Obama in regards to pushing the Russian collusion hoax, okay? He spilled the beans on that. He also was telling the world that, hey, the Hunter Biden laptop is not Russian collusion, right? It's not Russia. It's 100% legit. He was saying that while everybody else was saying, no, it's Russia, right? So again, John Ratcliffe, if he says that it didn't happen, I believe him, okay? I really do. I like him a lot. So yeah, I mean, what he's saying, I mean, it makes sense. Imagine if this was actually true, okay, considering how the mainstream liberal media and the Democrats hate Trump, if this actually happened under the Trump administration, guys, don't you think we would have heard about it? Don't you think it would have been national front page news that, oh, Trump is allowing a Chinese spy balloon to fly over the United States, right, unimpeded? We would have heard about it. We would have saw videos. We would have saw the same thing that we're seeing right now. But the reason why we didn't see it because it didn't happen, right? It's a lie. The Biden DOD, okay, is coming out here and lying on his behalf, trying to blame Trump, and the lamestream liberal media is going along with it, right? Instead of asking common sense questions about, if this actually happened under Trump, we would have definitely heard about it by now. You know how much we hate that guy, right? We dig up all types of dirt on Trump, okay? If there was something actually legit like this, they would have ran with it. Again, these people think the American people are dumb. They think they're stupid, right? So with that being said, as again, the DOD is running propaganda and disinformation about this Chinese air balloon, the Chinese allegedly are fuming, right? They're fuming over Biden finally deciding to pop their balloon. So let's go ahead and read about this because China's pissed. China's foreign ministry on Saturday said it, quote, strongly disapproves of and protests the U.S. decision to shoot down a spy balloon that had been in U.S. airspace for the last several days and warned it may take unspecified responses to that action. I guess you could say we burst that bubble, right? I guess that's what you could say. Quote, China strongly disapproves of and protests against the U.S. attack on a civilian unmanned airship by force. The foreign ministry said, quote, the Chinese side has, after verification, repeatedly informed the U.S. side of the civilian nature of the airship and conveyed that its entry into the U.S. due to force majeure was totally unexpected. Yeah, right. So why didn't you warn us, right? Why didn't you warn us before it actually got into our territory? Why didn't you say, hey, we got a spy balloon, right? Or what they call an unmanned airship, okay, a civilian airship. We got an unmanned civilian airship that we lost control of. Please don't shoot it down, right? No, they didn't do that. They didn't do that. At first, they told us when it happened that we're investigating it. We don't know what it is, right? It may or may not belong to us. And then they acknowledge that is theirs, okay? And then they say, you guys should proceed with caution, right? Proceed with caution while we spy on you. Again, absolutely amazing stuff. I wonder if the Chinese would respond that way if we flew a spy aircraft or vehicle, whatever you want to call it, over Chinese territory. I'm pretty sure they wouldn't respond that way. But then again, they were pretty pissed when Nancy Pelosi pulled up to Taiwan, they did see that as the United States encroaching on their airspace. Okay, so I will say this is probably in response to Nancy Pelosi going to Taiwan. This definitely has something to do with that, in my opinion. Quote, the Chinese side has clearly asked the U.S. side to properly handle the matter in a calm, professional, and restrained manner. It added, the spokesperson of the U.S. Department of Defense also noted that the balloon does not present a military or physical threat to the people on the ground. Quote, under certain circumstances, the U.S. Use of force is a clear overreaction and a serious violation of international practice. The Foreign Ministry added, China will resolutely safeguard the legitimate rights and interests of the company concerned and reserve the right to make further responses if necessary. China's sharp reaction came a day after it warned the U.S. against taking any action against the surveillance balloon and said U.S. politicians and the media had hyped up the incident in order to attack and smear China. Boy, this is hilarious. The ministry also insisted that China has, quote, no intention to violate and has never violated the territory or airspace of any sovereign country, even though the Pentagon determined the balloon was maneuverable and had been floating through U.S. airspace at 60,000 feet for a few days. Yeah, so somebody was controlling it, right? So it's being controlled. Right? Again, absolutely incredible. Again, not a coincidence, right, that it flew over sensitive U.S. military installations, right, where we have nukes, where we have some of our most advanced weaponry. But China said, no, it's random, right? It just, we didn't have no intentions of going into, over these spaces. It just flew there because of the wind, because of the weather, right? Amazing. China's official government response was mirrored in China's state-owned news services. The Xinhua news agency accused the U.S. military and media of using the prevalence of a spy balloon over the U.S. to start hyping the China threat. Quote, the U.S. is being urged to be more sincere in making concrete moves to solve problems with China instead of making more provocations, analysts said, who reported. On Saturday, China's embassy in the U.S. said Wang Yi, a member of the Political Bureau of China's Central Committee, spoke to Secretary of State Antony Blinken, who postponed his meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping. Because of the incident, the embassy reported that Wang told Blinken that China, quote, will not accept any groundless conjecture or hype over the incident. Bruh, the Chinese are hilarious. Quote, in the face of unexpected situations, what both sides should do is maintain steadiness, communicate in time, avoid misjudgment, and manage differences, the embassy said. So what do you want? You want us to just allow your balloon to freely fly over our sovereign territory and airspace, spying on our stuff, right? You want us to just freely allow you to spy on us and do nothing about it? I mean, Biden did, right? They did. The Chinese are still mad. I guess they wanted their balloon back, right? I guess the balloon was going to fly back to China, or who knows, maybe it was going to make a U-turn, right, and go back into the continental United States. Who knows? And the Global Times, another Chinese state-owned news outlet, reported that China is expressing its strong dissatisfaction and protest against the U.S. for shooting down, quote, China's civilian airship. China clearly requires the U.S. to properly handle the incident in a calm, professional, and restrained manner, the Times reported. Yeah, well, don't fly your shit in our airspace, right? And then you won't have these problems, okay? It's really that simple. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.